You're listening to the Frytech podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. I will greatly appreciate this. Okay, now to the episode. Today we're discussing all the new announcements from Apple and also what we can expect from Apple in 2021, especially in the summer of 2021. Okay, let's just jump right into it. So first of all, let's briefly talk about what was just announced. And one key feature I want to sort of concentrate today on is Macs. Because as much as sort of Apple wants to pretend that iPad is a replacement for proper Mac computers, it's not. Maybe for some people who don't do anything on their computers, but like type some freaking text and maybe open like browser, that can be replacement. For anything more complex than that, well, again, like maybe let's put it that way. Maybe for digital artists, iPad can be a good place, a good computer. For music production, for obviously like writing code, making videos in like a proper, like a Final Cut or something similar, DaVinci Resolve. iPad is not a replacement for Macs. And it doesn't matter if iPad now has apparently M1 chip. It doesn't make it proper personal computer because of the software limitations. Because the moment you opened 3 apps and maybe like 20 tabs in Safari, some process will be killed in the background. Your app will, kind of be thrown out of the memory or will be frozen in the memory. It's just not a good place to be if you want to do any kind of extensive tasks, if you are pro user basically. And these new iMacs, I'm not so sure about them because it is the same M1 chip and nobody would expect, I think nobody expected, at least I definitely didn't expect them to come up with M1X or M2 already in the iMacs. To be honest, I didn't even think about it, but it would make no sense to come up with something more powerful because how powerful the M1 is. They just lifted the bar so high in their like base level model, MacBook Air, that MacBook Air on specs, right, can beat in many tasks their crazy expensive like 2.5K or even $3,000 MacBook Pro 16-inch that they released in 2019. Because it has even better like a CPU power, for example. Less of a GPU power, but similar or even more CPU power, which is crazy. So they lifted the bar so high that expect them to create something even better right now, just not even 6 months later, it would be silly, obviously, because then they would be competing with themselves already. Why would they do it? But what they've done is something that I despise Apple for my whole life since I've been using them, like, I don't know. I think I've started like in 2010 or something. The artificial limitations. What I mean by that is that a higher spec model gets 4 USB-C ports. 2 of them, unfortunately, only 2 of them are Thunderbolt ports, and 2 of them USB-C ports. There is no SD card reader, which I despise. There is no Ethernet built into the system, and on the lower spec model, you don't even get the Ethernet port unless you step up and buy the more expensive model with the kind of different power brick. The fact that they've went through the trouble creating 2 power bricks, one with Ethernet apparently and one without, it just shows how Apple is still run by marketing. They know like finally, sort of hardware people are overtaking the marketing bullshit team. Finally, during the sort of like past 5 years, it was not the case, but they created such an amazing processor, M1, that it is making sense like to buy their computer even though they have like limited periphery and they have all this like soldered RAM and SSDs, and what pisses me off personally is that they removed that special connector on your motherboard for basically for repair services to access and be able to extract the data in case your motherboard died or something like that died, but your SSD is still there, your data is still there. And since I don't know, since forever now, basically, if you don't make your backups and your computer dies, you're fucked. You're properly screwed because nobody can access that information. It's gone, basically. It's done, which is garbage. And I really despise Apple for this. And I've never bought their computers since they've become bad. Since my last laptop was 2015 MacBook Pro 15, which had all the ports. And so with this reimagination of iMac, they removed ports. And they removed ports, first of all, in some capacity because of the marketing, because they needed to differentiate between lower spec model and upper model, but also because design, once again, they're still run by some design garbage shit. Even though nobody asked them and nobody really wants that, they are making this computer so slim that there is no space even to put the proper Ethernet port, probably no space to put proper SD card, and so on and so forth. I can only give one sort of benefit of the doubt, only one, because apparently, and that I forgot who explained this or who had this idea, but the idea of this particular iMacs and why they've went back in time, literally 20 years ago or something, to have the iMacs with wide bezels and the giant chin was kind of as a nod to the history of Apple. Obviously, the colors is the colorful logo of Apple that they had, but the only thing I can give Apple is that they've made this computer to be like a main desk computer at some fancy hipster businesses and whatnot. And so they can display this. The kind of people would more likely even look at the back of those computers, hence why it's such colorful stuff. It is sort of a prestige kind of move, cool looking kind of stylish move, but it's if you're a pro user, this computer is not really for you. I could get this. I can understand this. What I hate is wide bezels. They kind of grow on me slightly, but I understand how it can, if you're doing any color work on your computer, photo editing, video editing, these wide bezels can throw off how you perceive the picture. There is no discussion that it's always black bezels for a reason, so they don't distract you from the picture that you're editing, the video you're editing, the colors, how they are represented on the screen, and white, and especially because now it has this colorful chin. This is not good. This is not good for professional people. And I understand that now they have this iMac and iMac Pro, and potentially the Pro model will have different features and whatnot. But the fact that they have 4.5K screen, very good screen in this new iMac, I think it is P3 color gamut, so it's quite wide, quite good representation of colors. Yet they do these little things that they're weird, they're based on marketing, they're based on weird design specifications that nobody really needed. They could have eliminated the chin completely. And I've somebody on Twitter sort of posted this little picture of here's a generic monitor, and here's this monitor with the chin. You can recognize it quite easily as an iMac or iPhone. This little notch on top. Here are notchless phones, and here's one with a little notch, and you kind of recognize this as an iPhone. So I would give Apple sort of credit if that was the reason why they've done it, just for recognition, sort of branding type of, that's the reason. Okay, might be. Still not happy, still waiting basically for iMac Pro, proper model. But what scares me and why I wanted to talk a little bit about the future and what we might expect in the summer at WWDC, I'm really skeptical right now, and I'm really worrying about the future of MacBooks and how they're gonna redesign them, because I really, really, really strongly hope that Apple will include HDMI port, proper HDMI port, SD card slot, MagSafe, and hopefully at least one USB-A port, big old USB-A. And what gives me zero hope that they will go back to USB-A is the fact that they've eliminated it from the iMacs. iMacs previously had USB-A ports. Maybe it was once again limitation of their design, that they've made it so thin that the receptacle wouldn't actually fit inside. I'm not particularly sure I didn't check how thick the USB-A port is. But again, like if you could make it, I don't know, whatever, 5mm thicker, or like, I don't know, 20mm thicker, nobody will notice this. It's an iMac, it stands on a table. Who gives a fuck, to be honest? It is already thin and light. It's like best in the class anyway. As with their MacBooks, right? Their design is already best in the class. It is so slim, pretty much best in the class. Pretty slim. It is so like thick, robust. This whole aluminum body. It's so amazing. Like, you don't need to make them thinner. Just add ports, make them usable again. One thing I hope, but I know it's not gonna happen. If anybody used Sony cameras recently, Sony Alpha 7, like what is it, like, I guess A7S3, right, has it. I think A7, which one I'm thinking about, R4, I think, Sony Alpha 1, they all have right now those SD/CF Express Type A, smaller one, card readers. What I would really hope Apple to do is to implement that type of card reader. But because it is thicker, I think they will not do it. And it is such a shame, because Sony cameras are gaining popularity like crazy. Everybody loves them. Sony is just killing the freaking on the camera market. They're doing extremely impressive things with their camera sensor, their technology, the like low rolling shutter, dynamic range. Some cameras with their recording formats, others with like resolution and everything. So they're doing an impressive job, and they are using this CF Express Type A cards. And I would expect in the future, if cameras need more sort of read-write speed, they would use those type of small type of cards. And Apple will not have that card reader inside of their computers, even though that would have been a great opportunity to redesign it and include both things, SD and Type A, CF Express Type A. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Probably not. If at least Apple includes very high speed SD card slots, that would be something. That would be good enough. Another thing, and I'm really cautious about it, and I really think Apple will not do it, but I really hope they will, is that include HDMI 2.1 that can support 4K 120 or whatever 8K 60. Give us higher frame rates from the HDMI port, and hopefully it is also implemented on the level of operating system. Because recently I've been using 144 Hz monitor, and I do not want to go back to monitor with less hertz if it is a big panel. If it's a small panel, like an iPhone, for example, even if it is like a MacBook 12-inch I'm using right now, the old MacBook, you don't really notice the 60 hertz. But once you get close to the screen and you get big screen, you can go back and forth between 60 and 120 or 144 hertz, and the noticeable difference is there. You can clearly see which is which, how the mouse moves, how like the browser tabs are opened and stuff like that. Just daily tasks, not even talking about gaming, just daily tasks are so much better on 144 hertz monitors. And I'm not sure if Apple ever supported this, to be honest, with their HDMIs or via display ports. I'm not sure. Nobody ever talks about it. I'm perplexed, seriously perplexed, why nobody ever talks about this, because what people don't use 144 hertz monitors. Right now you can get really great IPS panels with that refresh rate, and they look stunning. They are amazing. You can get even like widescreen with 144 hertz. These are the best monitors, to be honest, right now. And I'm not sure about the Apple support of it on a physical hardware level, but also on the software level. And I really extremely hope for that. It would have given the Apple boost, at least in my eyes, that the hardware engineers actually understand what they're doing, know what they're doing, and actually paying attention and giving you features like it was back in the days when they gave you features. Some users might use it, some might not use it, but the feature set is there for those people who need it. Like with the removal, I will never forgive Apple for removing 3D Touch from their phones for some fucked up reason. I guess that it consumed like quite a lot of power. So instead of working on reducing the power usage, they just stripped it away and made the phones thinner again and some bullshit like that. I will never forgive Apple for this, because that's the one technology, 3D Touch in phones, that is the best in the class, was the best. Nobody on Android, as far as I know, had anything like that. They had like some vibration feedback, but it's not the same at all. So I just hope Apple, with this redesign of MacBooks, will actually give users more stuff rather than restricting them. But again, because I'm seeing this redesigned iMac, it gives me doubt that Apple will go that route. And also, let's just quickly mention one thing: the fact that people expect Apple to put new M1X or M2 chips in their presumably upcoming redesigned MacBook Pro 14 and 16 inch, and I don't think it's gonna happen. If not for one leak, I would have said that it's not going to happen at all. And it's going to be the same M1 chip with just extended periphery and I/O ports, basically. But one leak on some benchmark website that I actually spotted, I'm pretty sure, before anybody posted it on Twitter, because I was browsing this one benchmark, and I've seen M1X, and it had like 12 cores. The processor had 12 cores, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I've never posted this anywhere, but I think I made like a note to myself, like, did anybody notice that? And of course, now people noticed that, but that was one little weird accident. But basically, had it been not for that leak, I would have guessed that they would just go with M1 because of how powerful it is. Because you could probably clock it slightly higher, like if you have a bigger chassis, like 16-inch or 14-inch for that matter. Maybe you can put two fans there, right? So you can either sustain clocks, the same clocks for longer, or at least boost them slightly. But maybe they're gonna go with a higher end model. But what I think is gonna happen is that at a base price, MacBook Pro 16 will probably come with M1 chip. Maybe 16 gigs of RAM, maybe like 500 gigs of storage. But I think it's going to be M1. And maybe for an updated price, for increased price, for updated version, higher tier version of 16-inch, maybe you can get M1X. I don't think we're going to get M1X on the 14-inch. We might, but I'm not sure. At the base price, I'm pretty sure. How much it's going to be, I'm not sure. Maybe $1,600, maybe $1,700 for 14-inch. I think we're going to see M1 as well at the base price. And I'm fairly certain it's going to be like 8 gigs. Maybe they're going to be generous and give us 8 gigs 512 of SSD storage. Maybe they're just going to be Apple cunts like usual, and it's going to be 8 gigs and 256 gigs of storage. Time will tell, I guess. But I think they're going to go with this sort of reasoning that, we have like lower tier models and they are powerful, but they are lower tier because they don't have periphery. They don't have I/O ports that some pro users might need. But they're going to be good machines if you want to occasionally edit videos, make your photos, go to school with the laptop, right? Buy your, MacBook Air. It's cheap. Educational price is even lower. Go for it, right? But if you want to be having all your HDMI port, SD card slot. I don't think they're gonna include USB-A, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna do that. But maybe like MagSafe port, whatever. Here's your more expensive model. Give us money. The processor is pretty much the same, but it is sufficient enough for your workloads. I think this is what they're gonna do. And speaking of MagSafe, I'm really hoping for the return of it because I hate USB-C charging shit. And yeah, it's gonna be great if it returns because that was the best feature of MacBooks. Like 3D Touch was the best feature of iPhones that really distinguished them from other phones, and MagSafe really distinguished them from other computers. Now I know that like some Microsoft Surface, I think, has MagSafe, basically MagSafe, but I really hope that Apple will go back to it and I have hopes for that. Not because some leaked schematics or anything, but because of the actual iMac product that is released right now. It has magnets on its like power cable. So what more hints do you need, basically? I think they're gonna go with MagSafe, and I'm really happy if they're gonna do this. One thing that I'm not sure if people talked about it, right? But that logo, WWDC, of like a person in glasses looking at like Xcode and whatnot. This is direct. I mean, I'm assuming people obviously noticed that, right? It is a direct sort of homage, if you want, to the Craig Federighi opening the first MacBook and smiling, right? It was such a funny moment. But now that you see the power of M1, you understand that, oh yeah, you can smile if you design and created that thing. I think there's going to be MacBooks on WWDC exactly specifically because of this. They're showing you in the picture that, hey, do you remember that moment when the person opened MacBooks? That's what we're giving you here. Yes, there's going to be Xcode and future iOS, Mac, whatever, but we're going to give you this one more thing because you remember this laptop? Yeah, that happened. The one thing I'm just worried about, the other one thing that I'm worried about is that it might be that they introduce only 16-inch model and not 14-inch. And maybe they're going to go with this reasoning that right now, right, like you have MacBook Pro as well as MacBook Air. Yes, it doesn't have 4 ports like the previous model had, but it is still MacBook Pro. Why would you update and create new MacBook Pro 14-inch basically immediately after you've created one already? So I think what might happen is that they're gonna release 16-inch and that's it. Redesigned 16-inch with a lot of ports, SD, HDMI, MagSafe, maybe 3 USB-C ports, maybe 4 if we are lucky. But yeah, I think it's gonna be powered probably by like M1 chip at the base model, and maybe it's gonna have like 2 USB-C ports, 1 Thunderbolt, and then the periphery, basically. DisplayPort, SD card slot. I think they're gonna like allocate basically lanes to that if there's gonna be M1 chip version of MacBook. If not, and if we're gonna look at actually M1X chip with like 12 cores and presumably more bandwidth for I/O connectivity, more like PCI lanes and stuff like that, then maybe we're gonna get like proper like 4 USB 4/Thunderbolt ports, not just USB-C like 10 gigabits or something like that. So what do you think? First of all, yeah, what do you think about the new iMacs? Do you like them? How do you feel about them? And also, what do you think is going to be released at WWDC? And what do you think the future of MacBooks should be? What would you want to see in the MacBook Pros, redesigned MacBook Pros? Okay, please subscribe to Frytech podcast. It's going to be more consistent now. I'm going to produce more of them. And we're going to talk about technology. And we're going to be a bit judgmental because we want the best for consumers, not just the most amount of profit for some bullshit marketing reasons for giant corporations. So if you're into those kind of things, if you can accept criticisms of companies, even if you're using them, you've come to the right place. So, yeah. Okay, till the next episode. Take care.